Today, we're diving into something that genuinely changed my life, not in a fluffy, believe in yourself kind of way, but in a holy shit, this explains everything I've been struggling with kind of way. We're talking about NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and more importantly, how your mind actually works. The conscious mind and the unconscious mind. Because here's the truth, most people don't have a motivation problem. They have a mind problem. They're trying to change their behavior without understanding the system behind it. So by the end of today's episode, you'll understand why you do the things you don't want to do, why you self-sabotage even when you're motivated, and how your mind can be trained just like your body. Let's get into it. So what even is NLP? I want to make this as simple as possible because neuro-linguistic programming sounds super complicated. But it really isn't. Neuro, that's your mind. Linguistic, that's your language. And programming is your patterns and habits. So essentially, NLP is how your thoughts, your language, and your behaviors create your results or your reality. It's not magic. It's not a hypnotist swinging a pocket watch. It's not manifesting a Ferrari in 48 hours. It's practical psychology, and it helps you understand why your brain reacts the way it does, why you repeat habits that you hate, and why you talk yourself out of things that you actually want. And once you understand those patterns, you can change them. Here's a quick example. If you say something like, I don't know, I always mess things up, or I'm just not disciplined, or I've never been confident, that language becomes part of your identity, and identity drives behavior. If you believe you're someone who always fails, you're way more likely to give up early, procrastinate, or not even try. Not because you're lazy, but because your brain is following the program that you've installed. So NLP is basically learning how to update the software in your mind. It's like deleting old apps on your phone that just keep crashing your life. So I mentioned at the top the conscious and unconscious mind. And when I first learned about this, it actually blew my mind a little bit. So you've got two minds. You've got one brain, but you've got two minds. You've got the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. Now, the conscious mind, this is the logical part. It's the planner. It's the goal setter. It's the part of your brain that says, I'm starting on Monday, or I want to lose weight, or I'm going to be confident, or I'm going to launch that business. It's smart. It's intentional. It's ambitious. But it is tiny. Psychologists estimate the conscious mind is about 5% of your mental activity, whereas the unconscious mind is the other 95%. This is where your habits, beliefs, emotions, fears, memories, automatic reactions, it's where they all live. It's the part of you that will brush your teeth without thinking, scroll when you're anxious, reach for food if you're emotional or you're stressed. And it's the part that will instinctively say no to opportunities that might feel scary. And the thing that really got me is the fact that your unconscious mind is what's running the show. It's not your conscious mind. Think of it like this. The conscious mind is like the jockey, and the unconscious mind is the horse. The jockey might want to go to the right, but if the horse wants to go left, guess what's happening? You're going left every single time. That's why people will say things like, oh, I know what to do, I just don't do it. It's not a knowledge problem. It's not a willpower problem. It's a wiring problem. Your unconscious mind will pull you towards what's familiar, even if familiar is miserable. So I first came across NLP accidentally. I actually had NLP done on me and I didn't even realize that's what it was. But I first came across it because my partner Sophie was training to be an NLP coach when we first met, and she was talking to me about it and she explained it. And that's when I realized that I'd actually already experienced it. I just didn't know what it was. When I came back to England in 2019 from Australia, I was mentally not in a great place, and I hadn't been mentally in a great place for quite a while. But I worked with a lady in Manchester called Sally Heddy, and I'd done CBT, talking therapy, I had numerous counsellors and psychologists, and nothing had really worked for me, and not properly anyway. But I worked with Sally for a couple of months, and one of the big issues that we worked on, and the example I'm going to give you, was about my inner dialogue, and specifically how I saw myself and spoke about myself and my body. And I remember one day, one of the sessions we had, I got the tram into Manchester. I got off at Deansgate and I was walking towards her office. Now, if you are familiar with Deansgate in Manchester, you'll know that it's just a straight road, and there's shop fronts and like buildings on either side, and it's just, yeah, you may never even notice this, but it's just windows, just massive windows everywhere, glass everywhere. Now, every time I walked past a window, I would look at my reflection, not in a vanity way, not in a, oh, look at me kind of way, but in a I hate myself kind of way. So I'd look at my reflection and I'd judge myself, I'd criticize, I'd pick myself apart, and it was quite an automatic response. It wasn't even a deliberate thing. It would just be, I'd be walking down the street and I'd catch a glance of my reflection and I'd criticize my weight, the size of me, and all those kinds of things. And we had a session where we kind of honed in on that inner critic and the story behind it and the identity driving it. And it's quite funny because there was a part of what we did in our sessions that was almost hypnotic, but I wasn't, but I was conscious whilst I was doing it. And I remember that the image that came up for me was the cartoon character Big Hero 6, and well, no, that's the movie. The Baymax, I think the name of the character is, from the movie Big Hero 6. You know, if you've never seen the movie, just to give you a visual, it's kind of he's a big, almost like ghost-looking balloon figure, big and airy is probably the word that I'd describe, but I use the word airy because in the visual that I went through with Sally when I was trying to change this thought process that I had, I physically, in my vision, I had to stick a pin in Baymax to shrink him and deflate him. And that was the image that went through my mind as we were going through this process of changing that inner critic for me. And I remember that I left the session and walked back to the tram, and I didn't once look at my reflection. I didn't even glance towards it. And I actually didn't notice that I hadn't done it until I was sat on the tram back home, and I was talking to my sister, and I was messaging my sister, and I remember just telling her about the session, and I just realised that something that had been so automatic for me for years had just gone, like, instantly. And it was mad. It was like my conscious mind wanted confidence, but my unconscious mind had been programmed for self-criticism, and the session that I'd just had just completely interrupted that program, and that tiny invisible shift was the start of something huge for me. And this is what I want you to take from the story. It's like, if a pattern that had run so deep for me could change like that, it's a pattern that can change for you too. And a big pattern that people struggle with is self-sabotage. And one of the biggest ideas that we have in NLP is that your unconscious mind doesn't care about your goals. It cares about your safety. It's trying to protect you. And safety doesn't mean happiness. Safety means familiar. So if you spent years feeling insecure, thinking negatively, or playing small, or even maybe believing that you're not good enough or you're not worthy, your unconscious mind sees that as normal. And so the moment that you try to change that, whether it's trying to improve yourself or leveling up or whatever it might be, your unconscious mind is like, nah, that's too risky. We need to go back to what's familiar. And it's not doing it to hurt you. It's doing it because it thinks that that's protecting you, because it doesn't want the unfamiliar. It wants to bring you back to what it knows, and what it knows is safe. And that's more often than not, it's why people quit when they start making progress. It's where they'll hide from opportunities. It's why they'll ghost whoever, in relationships or potential relationships, whether it's a professional or a romantic relationship. It's why people may ghost. It's why people might go back on a binge after they've been on a diet. It's why people might lose motivation when things go well. It's not that it's a weakness, it's that it's programming. And you're not broken, but you're just running outdated software. And that's the thing that NLP will help you change. So you might be thinking, well, how do we update this program? How do we make these changes? And there are 3 steps that I like to refer to. The first is awareness. So you can't change a pattern that you don't notice. So the next time you catch yourself thinking, I can't, or I always mess this up, or I'm not good enough, I want you to pause. I want you to notice it, and I want you to name it, because awareness is the first crack in the old program. The second thing is language. Your words shape your identity. So instead of I can't do this, try saying I'm learning to do this. Instead of I always fail, try saying I'm improving. It sounds like such a small shift, but it has such a huge impact. When the language changes, the identity changes. And that's the third point, identity. Behaviour follows identity. If you believe you're someone who never sticks to anything, your brain will work hard to keep that belief true. But if you start seeing yourself as someone who takes action, even if it's just a small action, your behaviour will follow. So ask yourself, who is the version of me that I'm becoming? And then take one step, even if it's a tiny step, towards the identity or doing what that person would take. Because those tiny steps repeated are what rewire the brain. So here's a little exercise for you. I want you to ask yourself, what's one belief I've been carrying that might not be true? And who would I be without that belief? And I just want you to sit with that. So what's one belief that you've been carrying that might not be true? And who would you be without that belief? Just take a few moments to just think about it, or, write it down and get back to it later. But really just do take a couple of minutes to just think about that. And whilst you're doing that, I want to just let you know that if this episode has resonated with you, please share it with someone who feels stuck, someone who's hard on themselves, or someone who keeps saying, I don't know why I do this. It will hopefully really help them. So to wrap up, NLP isn't about becoming someone else. It's about removing all that mental crap that's blocking who you already are. Your unconscious mind isn't the enemy. It's just been trained by your old experiences, old fears, and the old stories that you've told yourself. And the good news is that anything that has been learned can be unlearned. Anything that has been programmed can be reprogrammed. If you want to go deeper into this work, please drop me a message on Instagram. I am at Matty A. Hill. I would love to help you. Thank you for listening. I hope you got to do that little exercise. I'd be really interested to hear your feedback from the exercise that you did. Just drop it in the comments below this episode or drop me a message on Instagram and let me know how you got on.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.